You know, it's not often that you come across something that truly terrifies you in a way that doesn't necessarily get you to scream your brains off or anything like that, but the one that creeps up on you all the way until the end and then it just punches you in the face with brutality. And I think that's the best way for me to describe what I'm going to be talking about today. Just brutal. And what is that brutal thing that I just happened to finish reading? It's this book right here. This is Audition by Ryu Murakami, which there might be some of you watching this video who are thinking, that sounds awfully familiar. Did there happen to be some kind of, I don't know, cult classic, brutal horror film by Takashi Miike of the same name? Yes, actually. This is the original book that the famous, or I guess the infamous, Takashi Miike horror film is based off of. Well, technically speaking, this is the English version because I actually had quite a hard time finding the original Japanese version of it. But nonetheless, I have the book right here, and I literally just finished reading it, and I want to talk about it, so let's do that. Audition is a story about a middle-aged man called Aoyama. He unfortunately has lost his wife to cancer and left behind Aoyama as well as, at the time, his 8-year-old son, Shige. And even after, you know, the grievance of losing a wife, losing a life partner, Aoyama, with enough time, has slowly come over it, to the point where he is considering remarriage. His friends are pushing him to do it. Even his own now 15-year-old son is saying, hey dad, you know, I think enough time has passed, I think you deserve better. Which, by the way, is an incredibly mature thing for a 15-year-old to say. I definitely was not that mature when I was 15. But, you know, being a middle-aged 40-year-old man trying to find a partner, not just any partner, by the way, he wants a refined woman, you know, one with taste and exquisiteness and preferably much, much younger than him, but, you know, obviously still of the legal age. Midlife crisis, yes, definitely. And so what he does is, instead of, you know, loading up the Tinder, because remember, this is the novels based in the 90s, you know, people weren't even carrying around mobile phones during this time. I know that may be hard to believe, Gen Zers, but that was a reality at one point. So instead, with no access to Tinder, he sets up, him and his friend, actually, set up a very bizarre plot to find him a suitable partner, and that is to hold an audition for a fake film, hence the name of the story, Audition. Basically, they use their middle-aged man with lots of connections route to somehow conceive this plot of calling for an audition for an actress role of a fake film that they are trying to produce, with the farce of it actually being about looking for a suitable partner for Aoyama. I don't know how the hell it happened, but I guess it happened. And they managed to collect over 4,000 applicants, which just seems a little bit unrealistic, but sure, let's just roll with it. 4,000 applicants, ranging from the most beautiful of the beautiful, pristine young women that Aoyama is looking for to the grannies of the world. You know, bless up to the grannies. And out of all of the girls that show up to this fake audition, there is one girl that instantly draws Aoyama's attention. This young, beautiful, elegant woman called Yamasaki Asami. Asami is basically everything that Aoyama is looking for. She's gorgeous, she's polite, she is sophisticated, you know, she used to be a ballet dancer. There is this certain allure that Aoyama feels towards Asami, that he just becomes essentially head over heels for her. So much so to the point that he's like, fuck the auditions, like, I just want her. Like, I'm thinking about her 24/7. I'm so deeply infatuated with this girl that I want to be with her no matter what. So he goes on several dates with her, just standard conversations, getting to know one another, and she seems pretty reciprocative of it as well, and he's like, holy shit, I may be in my 40s, but I still got that riz, big dog. But the more and more that they meet up with one another, the more unsettled you start to feel. See, even though on the surface she may seem like this perfect, sophisticated young woman that Aoyama only dreamt about, there's a couple of small red flags, if you can call it that are starting to appear, and all of the people around Aoyama are starting to notice it as well, except for Aoyama. I mean, again, you have to understand, this is like the woman of his dreams, so he's almost not even seeing the red flags, if you will, which, you know, is a very common thing for people to do, unfortunately. A lot of people, when they're just so tunnel visioned in love, tend to forget about, maybe my partner might have a couple of toxic traits, maybe even a lot of toxic traits, and I'm dragging myself into a relationship that I may or may not regret later on. Comment below if you know at least one person in your life that I just described. There's one point in the story where Asami and Aoyama are on a date, and Aoyama's like, hey, I just realized I kind of don't know anything about you. Like, well, you know, what are your parents doing? Like, how was your upbringing? And this is where we start to see what kind of upbringing Asami had. She describes this whole tortured, I guess, and very hard childhood that she had of her parents being separated from a young age, her being put into foster care at her abusive uncle's house, and essentially just being incredibly tormented all day, every day, for many, many years. And Aoyama hears that and goes, wow, thank you for telling me that. That's incredibly brave. And also, my respect for you has just gone up 100-fold, because it's not every day that somebody who grows up in those circumstances can come out the other end as sophisticated and as grounded and as empathetic and as understanding as you are to my story, because I know how you feel. I lost my wife to cancer and I've been grieving for 7 years, and I know how difficult it is to overcome that level of grief. And, you know, as you're reading the story, you start to kind of, as a reader, like, oh, I guess they're kicking it off, even though they've been experiencing very messed up situations individually, they're somehow connecting through that pain. And so Aoyama just goes, YOLO bitch, and essentially goes, hey, so I have to come clean. That audition was a lie. That was just a ruse to try and find my wife, and I want you to be my wife. And lo and behold, Asami says yes, kind of says no, and it somehow leads into, like, I guess a soft yes, and it leading to a promise to stay in a beautiful resort down in the Izu Peninsula for a couple of nights, just the two of them, just to get to know each other better. The day comes, they get to the little resort, and literally the moment they enter the room, Asami starts undressing her clothes. She gets fully butt naked and tells Aoyama to be like, yo, I had a fucking rough upbringing, as you know, and I need you to promise me that you will love me and only me. Nobody else. Just me. And of course, Aoyama at this point is just so captivated by her beauty. Like, there's a lot of descriptive moments in the novel of from Aoyama's perspective of what Asami looks like in his eyes, and it really does sound like the most, like, mesmerizing angelic figure ever. And Ryu Murakami, and the translator for this English version, does a really good job of expressing that just mesmerizing, almost angelic aura that Asami is supposedly letting out. It's almost like she's this holier-than-thou figure that, you know, Aoyama just has to bend at the knees at and subject himself to, because his mind and body can't say anything else. And so, naturally, after all of that, they have the intercourse. And when I say they have the intercourse, they, like, they fuck. Like, for a really long time. Like, legitimately, there's an entire, I would say almost, like, 2/3 of a chapter in this book of just describing the raunchy schmecks that they're having, like, to almost excruciating detail. There's an entire fucking paragraph in this book just describing Asami's cat. Like, in my opinion, it gets to the point where it's almost grotesque in a weird way. I mean, that's just how much he's, like, hypnotized by her, I guess. And it really just drives home this sense of insanity that Aoyama is going through, because he's just so infatuated with this girl. And so after a very raunchy and excruciating intercourse scene, he wakes up in the middle of the night. It's almost like he's forgotten everything. He wakes up in the middle of the night, and she's gone. She's just completely left the hotel. Hasn't said a word, just left a little note, a very cryptic note. So several months pass, there's no word from Asami at all. Aoyama's absolutely devastated. He's like, oh my god, I just fucked everything up. I should have waited until marriage. And he starts to think, where did it all go wrong? Is it because I didn't wait till marriage? Is it because I hid the fact that I'm not only a widow, but I also have a son? I have friends who I care about, as well as like this dog called Gangster. Yeah, that is the name of the dog that they have, apparently. His name is Gangster the Beagle, which is a pretty gangster name, if you ask me. And so he's basically wasting away, rotting in his living room because all he's thinking about is, oh my god, I just did the fumble of the fucking century by losing her, and I'm gonna be miserable for the rest of my life, all of that kind of stuff. And so he's sitting in his living room, listening constantly to classical music while just like eating yogurt and like drinking booze and everything like that. And then suddenly, he feels this overwhelming sensation of numbness. It seems that somebody has drugged him, and who is that somebody? It's Asami the crazy bitch. She comes out from behind the curtains with surgical gloves on and a giant hypothermic needle with a muscle relaxant of some sort, which she stabs into his tongue and essentially paralyzes him. So Aoyama is sitting there on the couch, completely paralyzed, unable to move, unable to speak. And what does Asami do? Oh god, I fucking hate describing this. She brings Gangster the Beagle, who has also been drugged, by the way, so can't move at all, takes a wire saw and starts cutting off the dog's legs right in front of him. And again, it's described in such gross detail. I mean, I love and really admire how descriptive Ryu Murakami's writing is, but I also fucking hate how descriptive and well-written Murakami's stuff is. And obviously, it's absolutely horrifying because Aoyama can't move, he can't do anything, all he can do is just helplessly sit there on the couch as this woman he was once infatuated over has suddenly showed up, Stone Cold Steve Austin face, and just mutilated his dog in the worst way possible. By the way, throughout all of this, like, terrible torture that she is doing to not only Aoyama, but also to the dog, it's described that her facial expression has not changed at all. Like, this is the moment in the novel where I was, like, genuinely, like, ugh, like, shivers down my spine, because there's a particular moment in the story where Ryu Murakami writes in a way where it's like, her face looked and felt exactly the same as how Aoyama had always seen her face. It's like doing all of these like torturous things to this poor animal, or even to Aoyama himself, is nothing to her. It's emotionless. It's like everyday life. So she is clearly just off the rockers. She is absolute maniac, psycho monster. So there's a little bit of a squabble. Aoyama tries to escape by crawling his way up the stairs before... Oh, this is so terrible. Asami finds him and in a swift move wraps the wire saw around his left ankle, and and so naturally you'd think that, oh, he's just dead. Like, he literally just got his fucking left foot cut off by a wire saw. But in a last bit of retaliation, he he takes his freshly cut off left now stub, I guess, and kicks her in the face with it. And she tumbles down the stairs, breaks her arm, hits the back of her head, and is basically knocked out unconscious. But she's still alive, but she's very, very badly hurt. Just when you thought it's all over, just when Asami starts to get up again to finish the job, Shige, Aoyama's son, comes through the door and naturally goes, "What the hell?" Asami then attacks Shige. Aoyama's like, "Shige, kill this bitch. I'm begging you." To which then a squabble happens. Shige then grabs a tactical knife that it's established during the story Aoyama bought for him, and boom, right in the neck, and she dies. The book literally ends with a conversation with Shige and Aoyama. Aoyama says, "Shige, wait. Yeah? She kept saying something. Yeah. What was she saying? Liar, liar. Just that one word over and over. What was this all about? To then which Aoyama shook his head weakly. I don't know, he said. Nothing really. That's how the book ends. That's literally the last. I just literally read the last bit of this book. It escalated really freaking quickly. Like, really, really quickly. All of those grotesque parts that I just described to you literally happen within, I don't know, the last quarter of the book. The first 3/4 of the book is just establishing the story, establishing the characters, establishing this relationship between Aoyama and Asami. Mind you, this is a very short book. This is roughly, 190 pages? I read this in about 3 hours, so if you want a quick, short read that is very intense and very brutal and quite graphic, but you love your horror nonetheless, this is definitely a classic. I can see why this is a classic J-horror novel. So yeah, that was my review of Audition by Ryu Murakami. I'm not gonna be one of those book reviewers that does like numerical scores or whatever. If you thought what I described was interesting in any way, give it a read. As you can see, it's in English. But this was a great read. This was actually my first endeavor into Ryu Murakami's work, and I'm definitely interested to check out more of his stuff. Oh, and just as a quick final note, I have not personally watched the Audition movie, the Takashi Miike movie, because I am a bitch that is very squirmish when it comes to gore and stuff. I did watch the Spooky Rice video though, so shout outs to Spooky Rice for saving me from hours of torture. The best I can do is this book. So there you go. But yeah, anyways guys, let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. This is actually my first book review video, technically speaking, so if you like these, leave a like and leave any suggestions down in the comments of what I should read and review next. Smack my face right here, subscribe to the channel. Here's a couple more videos you can check out in the meantime. I think these kinds of disturbing horror novels would be a great entryway into doing more reviews, so if you know of any, let me know down in the comments. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.